Joining us now, Pam Bondi, former senior advisor to President Trump, now senior advisor to Trump-Pence 2020, former Attorney General of Florida, and she's with us now. Pam Bondi, great to have you, Pam.
Thank you. Good morning, my friend.
Well, you have a nickname on the John Fredericks Show, the Pamster. I hope you're not offended by it.
I just heard that.
That's what we call you, the Pamster. When we book you on our show, I just sent an email. I said, when can we get the Pamster? Boom. They get you right on. So we appreciate that, Pam. Okay, lots to talk about today, Pam. I want to start with a new poll just out. All the polls going in Trump's direction. Pennsylvania, the Rasmussen poll has him tied. Trafalgar poll has him tied in Minnesota. He's up in Michigan. He's moved ahead in Florida, ahead in North Carolina. Why are the numbers, Pam Bondi, shifting so significantly right now in the president's direction?
Well, you and I have always said the president's going to win, and he's going to win big. We've always known that. And these are polls. A lot of the polls you just mentioned have always been slanted against us. So think with the real numbers, how good the real numbers truly are. They're probably even better than what you just announced. It's because the president is law and order. John, you and I have known that forever. I think all your viewers recognize this. Everything the president is doing and will do to rebuild our economy. You know, when he says, I did it once and I'll do it again. I don't think there's a person in this country that doubts that he is the person to rebuild our economy, to end this pandemic. But more than all of that, what I always say as a career prosecutor, he's going to keep us safe.
Well,
and
that's it. Go ahead, Pam. Go ahead.
Every morning when we turn on the news, we're seeing these liberal cities with these liberal mayors and these liberal governors, and people are dying who do not need to die. And President Trump is going to stop that. Look what happened when he sent in the National Guard to Wisconsin. The violence stopped.
Is this about law and order, or is it about safety? Which is it?
Both. I think they go hand in hand. I think that's a good way of putting it. I think when people hear the words law and order, they don't understand that that's safety, that our great men and women in law enforcement, they're out there every day. The majority of their job is keeping us safe. Keeping our kids safe, protecting victims of crime, protecting the elderly, protecting women from rape cases. It's really amazing what the men and women in law enforcement do, John, that never even makes the news every single day. When they're out there helping kids, babies who are choking in the middle of the night. I posted on Twitter some things that our great men and women in law enforcement have done, and it goes really unnoticed around this country unless you're a victim or unless you truly need them. And so, yeah, it's about safety, but it's also about keeping the bad guys off the streets.
Pam Bondi with us, former Attorney General of Florida. I want to ask you a question. We got a lot to go over today, but in Portland, Oregon, there was a shooting of a Trump supporter shot dead. You saw it on the video, cold blood, point blank. The suspect did a video appearance with a magazine called Vice. You're an attorney general. How do you do a news article with a magazine when you're wanted for murder and you're not picked up? Just explain to average people how this now works.
Yeah, I was looking at that this morning, and he appeared to be on the run, out in the woods somewhere, clearly with a warrant out for his arrest. Yet a media outlet could find him and talk to him. He's a fugitive at that point, waiting to be arrested. Makes no sense to me, shouldn't be happening in our country, but of course it does.
If there was somebody that was wanted for murder up on charges and was a fugitive on the lam, and he came and stayed in my house and they found him, wouldn't I be complicit in that? Wouldn't I be charged with aiding and abetting?
Yeah, in Florida it's called accessory after the fact, where right. You're helping someone after a crime has been committed. Mm-hmm. So if they were helping him evade the police, that's possible. I don't know how soon he turn himself in shortly after that. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's always remarkable to me how all these people charged with crimes can always find the media before they can find the police station to turn themselves in.
Pretty unbelievable society that we're living in today. We're with Pam Bondi, former senior advisor to President Trump, now a senior advisor with Trump Pence 2020, former Attorney General of Virginia, the Pamster. Pam, let's get to the phony story in the Atlantic. I mean, I've seen fake news. We've all witnessed it. But now you got a story in the Atlantic magazine, which the entire Trump team came out today disputing, basically saying that he made comments on Bastille Day when he was in Paris, disparaging to our soldiers there that were dead in graves. Everybody has come out, said it was absolutely untrue. They never heard him say that. How does a magazine make this stuff up? I mean, how does this happen?
No, I was thinking about that. I don't care that President Trump is a public figure. You cannot come out and flat out lie about someone, even if they're a sitting president of the United States. And it's reprehensible. And I think Hogan Gidley put it best when he said they're disgusting, grotesque, and reprehensible lies. I don't think it could be said any better. Everyone who spoke on the record gave their names and said they were there, and it wasn't true. Sarah Sanders, Hogan Gidley, Dan Scavino, Jordan Krim, Stephen Miller, all said they were there, they were in the room, it didn't happen. Yet, the Atlantic uses sources, anonymous sources. Anonymous sources. Really? You disparage a president of the United States by anonymous sources? Well, come forward, people, and tell who you are, because you're lying. The President of the United States supports our military. He always has, and he always will. I've known that since before he was President of the United States. His diehard support for our great men and women who fight for this country every day. And it's, I think they've stooped to a new low to go after him. And, what we talked about in the beginning of your show, how the polls are turning in the president's favor. And I think they're getting so scared. That's my only way to reconcile how someone could print such vicious things about the President of the United States that we all know is not true. He supports the men and women in law enforcement. I've spent so much time around him. I've never heard him say anything close to that. It's the complete opposite of the tremendous respect he has for the men and women in uniform. The country knows that.
So the Atlantic magazine does a story basically saying that the president disparaged our fallen servicemen and women in France and disparaged them. All unnamed sources. Nobody comes forward. Not even source where it was said, just people that said that he said that. Then you got, 8 people that were with him the entire time. You mentioned some of them, Dan Scavino, Stephen Miller, Sarah Sanders, right? People that were with him the entire time all said that never happened. And yet they run the story. Where's the legacy media? Where's the fake news media saying, hey, this thing should have never gotten published? I mean, how do you have a story with 0 sources named disparaging about something the president said, and then you have 8 people who said, well, we were there with him the whole time. He never said that. And then how does the story run?
Yeah, it shouldn't. And they need to tread very carefully because the law is changing in that field in our favor, where you cannot, despite being a public figure, come out and flat out lie about another human being and attempt to destroy their reputation. It's not going to work because everyone knows the president supports our great men and women in the uniform, whether it be first responders, police officers, and especially our military who are fighting for our country. He always has and he always will. And there's nothing they can do to change that. This is a desperate attempt because of what you and I talked about earlier. The polls are changing. The public polls are changing, and they're scared to death that President Trump is going to continue to save our country.
Well, they're in panic mode, Pam. No question about it. The Democrats are in panic mode. I mean, they don't really even know what to do with their candidate. I mean, I almost feel sorry for Joe Biden. You look at him yesterday, he tries to go out to Wisconsin. He can barely walk. They have a so-called town hall meeting. They hand everybody a script and say, if you ask a question, these are the only 5 things that you can ask. Somebody finally gets up and says, I have your script, but I'm going to ask something else if that's okay. I mean, I've never seen this in my life. Everything is scripted out. 3 days ago, he's on a TV station. It was supposed to be a live interview. I think it was NBC in Miami. They asked him about Venezuela, and he started reading the talking points on the teleprompter in a live interview, and he starts out by saying, top line talking points Venezuela. So the three questions are, obviously they gave him the question ahead of time, which is, not really professional. Secondly, it's supposed to be a live interview. They knew what the question was, and they put the teleprompter in front of him to answer the question on video for the TV interview. And then thirdly, he reads the header, which is top line talking points Venezuela. He's just reading it, which means he couldn't even figure out that that was just the header for what he was supposed to say that they put up on the screen. I mean, how is this guy going to get through a debate, Pam?
He's not, and I still believe they are not going to let him debate President Trump because of everything he just said that's happening. It's sad that anybody is in that position in their lifetime, yet they're still there. He's running for president of the United States. This guy shouldn't be running for any office anywhere. And it's just sad that that's happening, but that they're letting it happen, and it shows more than ever he would not be controlling our country. It would be the left-wing radicals. It would be AOC, Bernie Sanders. This country would go so far left, and that's what can't happen. And I think moderate Democrats, I think people are seeing through that and what's happening.
Well, you look on the TV every day and you see these riots and, people getting hit over the head for no reason, just for walking down the street. In New York, people are fleeing. Many of them going to Florida, by the way. Let's get to the vaccine. I just need your perspective here, not as a medical professional, not that, but it appears there might be a vaccine coming for COVID-19. Yet, you look at the fake news media and the Democrats are trashing the vaccine. The fake news media is saying that it's not real, it's being pushed through the FDA. Why wouldn't all Americans be cheering the fact that we're fast-tracking perhaps a safe vaccine and hoping that it's here sooner rather than later, rather than the opposite, which is trashing it, disparaging it, and saying that it shouldn't be brought forward? What am I missing here, Pam?
You're missing what the liberal media is doing. I think none of us are missing that, really. But what the American people hear and see what the CDC director, Robert Redfield, said, that the federal government told states to be ready to deploy a vaccine by November 1st. It said in the near future. We know that McKesson is working on one. They've contracted with the CDC to distribute vaccines. And this is all, by the way, thanks to Operation Warp Speed, which President Trump and Vice President Pence, who is one of the greatest men I know, put the full resources of the federal government to mobilize and develop a COVID vaccine. And, if you keep going, the FDA commissioner, Stephen Hahn, also said they're not going to cut corners. This is going to be a safe vaccine, an effective vaccine, and people should be praying and cheering that this vaccine will hopefully be ready within a matter of months.
So, Pam, this is how sick the Democrats are. The Democrats are criticizing the success that we're having in developing the vaccine and saying it's too fast. Well, define too fast. November 3rd instead of November 1st? I mean, it's incredible. The fake media picks up on it. You've got them now challenging the administration as to why they're pushing forward with a vaccine, when either the same people who are not going outside, putting on masks, closing schools, can't get an education, small businesses up to 40% are going under, and so they don't want the vaccine until after the election? I mean, these people are sick.
Well, and President Trump isn't going to listen to any of that. He never has and he never will. He is going to do what he's always been elected to do, and that's fight for the American people. He can see above and beyond the media trying to stop him every step of the way. What they've been trying to do since the day he came down the escalator at Trump Tower. And he is not going to stop fighting for us and to protect us and to keep us safe, whether it be safety with our police officers or develop a vaccine for COVID. And that's what they've been doing with Operation Warp Speed. And John, that's what he's going to continue to do. He just shuts out all the noise of the liberal media and keeps fighting for us every single day. And that's what he's going to do for the next 4 years. And that's what the people of America are seeing. And that's why even the liberal polls that you talk about are all swinging in our favor now.
Pam, final question here that I just want to get your input on. Yesterday, Joe Biden criticizing the PPP, that was the small business program, saying it didn't work, saying it didn't help people. Look, I know hundreds of small businesses, including mine, that got some of the PPP. I wouldn't have been able to survive without laying people off without it. Because we lost, in advertising, obviously people aren't open, they stop advertising. We lost tens and tens of thousands of dollars. So that was a lifeline for us. And thousands of people that have been on my show that I've talked to have been helped by this. Yet Biden criticizes it. It was a bipartisan effort, and he criticizes it, said it didn't work. What planet is this guy on?
Yeah, and I guess he didn't read that the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, provided over $521 billion to over 5 million businesses. And what's happening now? In the past 3 months, 9.3 million jobs have been added back in our economy, over 1 million for women alone. And so, and then you go to Joe Biden's economic plan that would truly destroy American jobs. $4 trillion tax burden on hardworking Americans. And that's just hard to comprehend, the stark difference between the President of the United States and the guy that's trying to take his job.
And what do you think about the fact yesterday he says, I can't share my tax plan with you because my staff would shoot me? What was that about?
Well, that shows. I mean, that's just one more example of someone who's either just so out of touch or just doesn't know what he's talking about to make a statement like that in the middle of the unrest going on throughout our country.
Insane. The reason why he didn't want to tell people what his tax plan is because he's going to raise taxes on everybody. I think it's a $4 trillion tax increase, which is going to further tank the economy. And this is the stuff you have to deal with every day. I think, the final thing I want to say, Pam, you're a student of politics. AOC's influence in the Democratic Party now is complete. I mean, her backing of Ed Markey in that Senate race, for the first time defeating a Kennedy in Massachusetts, clobbered him. Markey over two and a half times his age or something. And the AOC was all over that. She cut an ad for him. She campaigned with him. Is there any doubt that now this is the party of the squad, an AOC?
No, and especially after what we saw yesterday with the Joe Biden speech, he really, it's sad. He's not, I'm trying to use my words carefully here. He's not, I don't think he's all there when he's speaking. He's not, he's got a lot of issues to deal with, and he will not control the White House. It would be the radical left, and that's what people need to be very aware of. That people, you need to get out there and vote for President Trump, because that tax increase, the radical left, everything they would do jobs throughout our country should scare us all. And President Trump's vision for our future is positive and bright. He built the greatest economy in the country, and he's going to do it again. No one in the country doubts that man will build our economy back as good and probably better than it ever was.
That's going to be the final word from Pam Bondi, former Attorney General, Florida, former senior advisor to President Trump, now a senior advisor, Trump Pence 2020. The Pamster, Pam Bondi, thanks for being with us, Pam. Love your
Thanks,
insight.
John.